some players who are rumored to be on the trade block. I'd like you both to tell us the latest you're hearing and the type of package required to acquire these players. So, Keith, I'll start with you. Marlins right-hander, former NL Cy Young winner, Sandy Alcantara. What are you hearing about a potential acquisition of him?
Yeah, so first of all, Sandy is, like you said, a former Cy Young winner and an ace at his best in this league, but he has not been at his best at all this season. He has an ERA about 7.5. It pushes to 8 a little bit because he's coming off Tommy John. The Marlins are changing his usage a little bit, more breaking stuff, less heat, which is what Alcantara is known for, and so he's really struggled. And there hasn't really been that look that's okay. This is Sandy. But I do know that a lot of teams just want to get their hands on him so that they can maybe bring him back to the Sandy of old. And so as far as a team like the Mets, it's dicey because it's going to be costly. The Mets, as you talked about or you both talked about with how much money they've spent, it's going to cost a lot more to have big guys in like Sandy Alcantara versus some of the names on the list that are maybe arbitration eligible or major league minimum, is that you're probably looking at about 2 or 3 prospects for a guy like Alcantara, because if he sticks around for 17 million or 20 million a year after that, or the next 2 years after that, that's less than what a free agent is going to get when they hit the open market. So that makes it juicy for a team like the Mets, but also the team on the other side that's going to say, okay, cough up some prospects with control. So even though Sandy has had an ugly year in some spots, I do think that there's teams that just need him to be good for a month or two toward the end of the season here.
Yeah, that's really good perspective because I feel like a lot of Mets fans have mixed feelings about acquiring Alcantara based on the way his year has gone so far. David, Jarren Duran, a Red Sox outfielder, would the Red Sox be willing to trade him after winning their last 10 straight? I mean, he could be an offensive upgrade in the outfield for the Mets.
Yeah, that's a great point, Chelsea. I mean, where do the Red Sox actually sit on this? I mean, a team that just won 10 straight, they took so much heat for trading Rafael Devers back home and trading an MVP type player. Seems like that trade has worked out pretty well for them so far in reeling off 10 straight and getting right back in this AL East race. So Durant is a great target for the Mets, obviously not just for this year, but as a guy who signed through the 2028 season, you're really setting yourself up to have center field set with a young player that does a lot of things well. Left-handed bat, as we alluded to before, something they're looking for. Speed, athleticism, plus glove in center field. So they could really take care of any center field questions for quite a while after this. So obviously a very cost-efficient player as he's still in that process, not reaching free agency until 28. So what the Red Sox are looking for is young pitching. Their prospect base right now, their top guys are all position players. We've heard a lot about them, the 3 they've already called up. So, and they can move around. They're very versatile. So they're going to be looking for arms straight up. And at the top of that list is going to be a guy like, Brandon Sprout, clearly Sprout. And I think he's a guy the Mets would be interested in seeing, possibly moved. Other guys like Jonah Tong, who I'm sure we'll talk about later on, might be a guy they want to hold a little bit tighter to the vest.
Yeah, just thinking about, though, like Duran in the outfield with Nimmo and Soto, I mean, that could potentially be the best outfield in baseball if they were to acquire him. Just thinking out loud.
Duran is a guy that, I was just going to say Duran finished 8th in the MVP voting last year. He's not having the same kind of year this year, but we know the potentials. We know the potential's there for sure. Sorry about that, Chelsea.
Yeah. No, you're fine. Very true. Great point. Keith, former Met Seth Lugo, we talk about, the Mets needing some arms. Do you think that there could be a reunion there?
It's funny. We were just in Kansas City right before the All-Star break, and Seth was chatting up with some old teammates. The funny thing is that the Royals are not out of it, so they're not in any position to ship away their good pitching. And seeing that team on the cusp, still looking up at teams like the Red Sox and the Rays and the wild card, considering from their shoes, pitching is their strong suit. Seth Lugo is one of their most reliable pieces, and so this is one of the issues that you get as a buyer at the deadline, looking around at some teams that, they're under 500. They're probably sellers, but with all the wild card opportunities that are out there, it would take a lot for them to give up. They're basically punting their season if they trade away Seth Lugo to the Mets because, again, their starters, their bullpen is really, really good. They just made a move to trade for Adam Frazier from the Pirates to their offense. So they're buying right now, the Kansas City Royals. So Seth Lugo would be great. A reunion would be nice. But the Royals are going to get rid of him. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I do think, though, even with the, return of Montas, Manaya, Senga, it does kind of put into question how those guys will hold up in the second half, just based on the fact that they are coming off of injury. So maybe just bringing a guy in like Lugo for, a potential rental deal could help the Mets. To our next guy, David, Cedric Mullins, Orioles outfielder, could be a summer rental. He's a free agent after this season. What do you think?
Well, now we've moved into a different segment of the grocery store aisle here at Chelsea. We talked about two teams that are on the fringe of contention. The Orioles most definitely are not. So, I mean, they should basically hang a sign outside of Camden Yards. Everything must go. So Cedric Mullins is certainly on that list. He's not the player that he was. I think that's become clear. It hasn't been a great year for him, which is not great timing for the Orioles, who want to squeeze the most value for him. So, again, he's a rental. I think this is a guy who could be a classic change of scenery situation. I mean, Cedric Mullins is a guy that wants to be on a contending team, is going to be at his best on a contending team. And that's what the Orioles were before this year. And that's when you saw the best out of him. His defensive metrics have slipped some in center field. He certainly hasn't had the offensive year that we're used to seeing out of him. Is that potential still there? Again, I think it's a classic change of scenery trade here. What you're looking at is giving up a lot less for somebody like Mullins as a rental, and the kind of year that he's having. He'll be an upgrade from what the Mets currently have in center field. Obviously, Taylor is not much of an offensive player. He's played a great defense for the Mets, clearly. He's had some big hits as well, but as a consistently day in and day out offensive player, it's not there. So it'd be a slight upgrade for sure if you can unlock what Cedric Mullins has been. We just haven't seen that from him this year.
Yeah, he could give the Mets a lefty hitting option too. Keith, Zach Gallen, Diamondbacks right-hander, pending free agent. Do you think that he could be a difference maker for the Mets?
Now we're talking. This is my guy right here, Chelsea. I like Zach Gallen a lot because I've seen him shove a lot against the Mets and against other teams over the last few years. I love a guy that is right there with dollar signs at the end of the season. I think it's a great incentive for these guys. If the Mets were to trade for him, if any buyer were to trade for him, you're going to get Zach Gallen saying, I'm about to put together a great last few months, maybe help a team go to the World Series, and then get paid afterwards. Those are the things that David Stearns likes to do with some of the free agent pitchers that he brings in. Go check Luis Severino's bank account after 1 year with the Mets. Sean Manaea did pretty well after 1 year with the Mets, kind of taking a chance. And so I like Zach Gallen a lot. I think he's filthy. You look at his numbers, I'm a little more upbeat on Gallen than I am on Alcantara, because even with Gallen's kind of up and down year, there are games that he just dominates. He has that ace-like ability. I'm going to throw in the East Coast thing because he's from South Jersey, the Philly area, so maybe there's a little tie in there to come back home from Arizona for a little while. But I'm a big Zach Gallen fan. It would take a lot. They're kind of in that buy-sell mode. I think they're going to lean towards selling just because there's so many teams in the way, and they could kind of point and look at the Mets farm system and say, we need some young controllable pitchers. Maybe throw in a Sproat or a Tong or something like that. But yeah, it'll be costly because it's one and done, the rental. But I'm a big Zach Gallen fan for the Mets starting rotation.
Yeah, we saw you sit up a little straighter in your chair.
Yeah, there you go.
We're ready for that one. Up next, David, back to you. Pirates reliever David Bednar, two-time All-Star. He did struggle at the start of the year, was sent down to AAA. Since then, he's been a different guy. What do you think about a potential acquisition of him?
Yeah, Chelsea, you mentioned it. When this year began, he was the top of the list of people that would be moved at the deadline, one of the most sought-after relievers for his ability in the past. And then the bottom fell out at the end of the year. He was sent down. He was a disaster, and then nobody really talked about him. Well, they're talking about him now. He's back with huge swing and miss stuff again. He's back to the David Bednar that people had talked about before. So, yeah, he's going to be a huge reliever to be shot at the deadline right now. Has another year of control after this year, which is a big thing for him. Makes him that much more attractive to teams, not just teams making a run of it this year too. So that's going to make him more costly. Obviously, the Pirates in the driver's seat here, holding on to a player like that. They've gone back and forth. The owner has made noise about not wanting to trade him in the past because he has to give up, show the appearances of eventually trying to build something in Pittsburgh. Well, to build something in Pittsburgh, you're going to have to start taking out a shovel and some bricks and start building. And they haven't really done that so far. So I would expect him to move. I think there's just going to be too many suitors for him. And I think the Mets should really be after that. Again, really big swing and miss stuff for them, and that'd be a great addition to the bullpen.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Keith, back to you. Mitch Keller, Pirates right-hander. The Mets saw him on June 27th. He only allowed 1 run over 5 1/3 innings. What do you think about Keller?
It's funny. We're back at another guy where we go, who is this guy? Can we get him on our team? Because he keeps beating us every single time. That's the funny thing, that Griffin Canning had that same ability too, to just beat the Mets every time he pitched against them. But I like Keller for a couple different reasons. I've also heard the Cubs are involved. And the reason I say that I like Keller, Cubs, division rival with Pittsburgh. Are you really going to give Mitch Keller to the Cubs, who's going to beat you for the next 4 years? Keller is right now in year 2 of, I think, about a 5-year deal, $77 million, right in the midst of his prime. And for David Stearns, what makes this juicy again is what's the carrot at the end for Stearns is control, cheap starting pitching. I mean, Mitch Keller making anywhere from $15 to $20 million a year for the next few years. Great. I mean, that's better than going out and signing Zach Gallen at the end of this year for $27 to $30 million a year. So that would be great. And so you turn around and maybe you throw in some position players, because we just saw the Pirates. And even though the Mets had their worst series in franchise history, the Pirates do need some offensive help. And I think the Mets can provide that with some of their young offensive prospects, especially this year. They've had an amazing year down in the minor leagues as far as hitting and position players are concerned. So Keller's another good guy that I like. You just wonder what a player like that, what kind of stomach that they have for big games and big moments. Gallen has pitched in the World Series before. Mitch Keller's pitched in Pittsburgh. Not a lot of big moments in there. So but he's pretty tantalizing as a trade piece.
That's a good point. Very valid point. David, Eugenio Suarez, Diamondbacks third baseman infielder, during the All-Star game, he told reporters that he wants to go to a team that wants to win. So could that be in play for the Mets?
Well, unfortunately for Suarez, he's not the guy making the phone calls right now. It's not a free agent along those lines. But yes, if he makes him feel any better, he'll be going to a team that wants to win, I'm sure, when he gets traded. There's no doubt about that. The other scary moment for him I shouldn't say another scary moment, but the scary moment for him was when he was hit on the hand in the All-Star game. Not something you want to happen right before the trade deadline. And it was serious enough to knock him out of the swing off. He had to be substituted there by Kyle Stowers. So, yeah, I mean, the thing with Suarez, the other team in town is going to be pretty interested in him too. The Yankees need a third baseman, and they've made noise that he's going to be near the top of their list there. So, interesting case for the Mets. Suarez, huge power guy, obviously, a lot of very high strikeout rate too. So, for their lineup and what they've been trying to do, we've documented their runners in scoring position problems over and over and over again. Is a high strikeout guy, the kind of guy that should be a huge priority. Again, his power is gigantic, and he's going to hit home runs for sure for you. He already has a ton in the first half. That's very attractive. So I don't know where he would. I mean, I may sound crazy of not saying that's an all-out guy to get. He's just a rental too, but it's an interesting fit. Also, third base slipped a little bit defensively wise too. So going to take some thought there when you measure it up against other needs for them for sure.
Yeah, definitely. He is having a great year. Keith, last one for you. Edward Cabrera, Marlins right-hander, having a breakout campaign this season. What could that potentially look like, if anything?
Yeah, Cabrera, we've seen him a couple times. He's a really electric arm that does like to walk the ballpark, which I don't think fits well for playoff teams. You walk one guy and everyone wants to lose their mind in the playoffs. But with Cabrera, good young arm, cheap, controllable, right? I think he's making $1 million a year, and he's under that kind of major league minimum arbitration eligible salary for the next few years. But he's just been so hurt. So I don't know. I mean, if you do deal with the Marlins and Sandy Alcantara is the first name on the phone call, or you have other people that you're involved in. Remember, the Mets traded for Huascar Brosman out of the bullpen last year, somebody that no one else saw coming. Maybe Cabrera is part of that deal, but I wouldn't say he's a huge target. Go out and get him. But something you said earlier, Chelsea, about just the starting pitching market being so big for the Mets as a need is that Clay Holmes has been kind of hitting a little bit of a wall, and Kodai Senga coming back, and you rely on him. So you need that ace-like guy, and that's why I think starting pitch is important. I don't know if Cabrera is that guy yet, but he could be part of a package.
Yeah, potentially. And just like you mentioned, Keith, the fact that he just avoided an IL stint right before the All-Star break, that's something that you have to keep in mind to potential injury in the future. Last one for you, David. Joe Ryan, Twins right-hander, made his All-Star game debut. What do you think of Ryan?
Yeah, it's a tough spot. I mean, of course, it'd be great to have. There's no way I'm going to say, Joe Ryan wouldn't be a great fit on the Mets team. And as Keith mentioned, starting pitching is certainly something they would like to add. But if you're the Twins, you're in a tough spot here. I mean, are you ready to wave the white flag in the division? I'm not quite sure they're at that point yet. When they come out of the break, their schedule is pretty easy. Things change fast. I mean, they're not catching the Tigers, obviously, but they're still in the wild card race. And do you want to trade with your all-star starting pitcher in Ryan to do that? I'm not so sure, especially because he's controllable. Again, another guy that's not going to be a free agent, I think, until 28. So the Twins are really going to have to be bowled over to consider that, just because he can certainly be a part of their future and certainly help them this year. So I don't know what you're going to have to give up to get him should be significant. So I'm not really sure about how anxious they are to move him.